We're starting now.
I'll just make sure I can share screen. Just a sec, Delaney. This is a bit different to. Just a sec. Where's the share screen?
Yeah, on top. So you
So
should
different.
find it on top on your right-hand side,
Oh yeah,
right
share.
next
Yeah.
to the leave
Sorry,
button.
we are
Yeah,
starting.
got it.
Right.
Wait
Good
a
morning,
sec.
everyone. I warmly welcome all of you to the University of South Australia's webinar on creative industries and education and teaching programs available for Sri Lanka and Maldivian students. When talking about UniSA, it is ranked in top 2 in Australia for graduate employability and ranked in top 5 in Australia for quality education. In order to talk about programs available at UniSA related to creative industries and education, we invited Mr. Adrian, Coordinator, International Business Development, and Ms. Rahama, International Recruitment Officer at UniSA International. Over to you, Rahama.
Thank you so much, Delaney. And hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining in for today's session. So yes, just like Delaney said, my name is Rahma Mashood. I work as one of the international recruitment officers here at UniSA. And today I'll be quickly running you through a snapshot of where we're located, Adelaide, and the university itself. And then I'll be handing over to Adrian, who will actually be talking about the subject areas today. All right, let me try to share my screen now. We did not do any testing before, so I hope it works. Let's see. There you go. Can I get someone's confirmation if you can see my screen? Perfect. And is it the full version, Adrian? Or is it the presenter view? Perfect. All right. So welcome to the University of South Australia. We are located in South Australia, which is the state, and the capital city is Adelaide, and that's where the university is located. Now, why would you study at Adelaide or in South Australia? Well, my answer is why wouldn't you study in South Australia? Because can you see that picture in the background? That's gorgeous. And that's one of the beaches here in Adelaide. It's called Glenelg, and we love this beach. It's gorgeous. And it's not the only beach that we have here. We have a lot more that look equally as pretty as that. And we do have some amazing mountains and ranges as well that you can hike if you want to. And not only the beautiful scenery, we are actually one of the most livable cities in Australia or also in the world. And also, we are one of the most affordable cities to live in as well. So if you actually compare Adelaide's cost of living along with Sydney and Melbourne, I've given you a comparison on the screen. So you can see that we're 12% more affordable than Sydney and up to 11% more affordable than Melbourne, which are the two big cities that we see a lot of students going to. And we've also given you a comparison on the screen over here. So you can actually see what the cost of living for a week will be if you're living here in Adelaide. That'll roughly be about $395 per week. We've also given you a conversion. And you can actually earn this amount and a little more as well by just doing part-time work. So you will be eligible to work 24 hours per week approximately, and you will be looking at a minimum wage of about $21.38 per hour. And you can actually see how much you can make out of that as well. So we actually are one of the most affordable cities to live in. And just by doing part-time work, you can actually cover your cost of living and save a little bit money as well. Now, moving on to another reason why you should actually study here in Adelaide. That's because you also will be getting additional years of post-study work rights, depending on the qualification that you're doing. So as you can see on the screen, we've given you a comparison of different states in Australia as well as different countries. So you can see that we do have the highest PSW or post-study work rights duration. So if you're a bachelor's student, you're eligible for 3 years stay back. If you're a master's student, you're eligible for 4 years stay back, and a PhD student will be eligible for 5 years stay back. Also note that the government has announced that additional 2 years will be granted for students studying in certain areas of study. It's up to you to actually do your research, or you can actually have a chat with Educate as well if you want to know what these areas are. So just bear in mind that the years that are mentioned on the screen can actually be higher than what is there. Now, you do know that Adelaide is a great place to live and to study. And if you do need any additional information about Adelaide, you can go on to Study Adelaide's official website. They're the official government body that's responsible for promoting Adelaide as a destination for international students. So you'll be able to get any information about the state on their website. And also, if you are interested in applying for jobs, they do have an amazing project that they're running. It's called the Job Shop. And the Job Shop basically has job opportunities, part-time casual job opportunities on their website that you can apply for even before you arrive here in Adelaide. So you can start applying for your part-time jobs while you're offshore in Sri Lanka or in Maldives before you even arrive here. And with that, I'm going to my next slide, which basically answers the question, why do you want to study at UniSA? So now you know Adelaide is great, South Australia is great. Why do you want to actually study at UniSA? Again, my answer is why not UniSA? Because we are ranked in the top 50, under 50 in the world. So we are one of the top young universities in the whole world. And this is both QS and Times Higher Education rankings. And not only that, we are actually #1 in Australia for graduate employability. And this is not just South Australia, we're talking about the whole of Australia. And yes, we are #1 for graduate employability. This means our students end up getting jobs, and we are right on top when it comes to that. And we are also in the top 10 in Australia for graduate skills as well. Now, to give you an idea about the size of the university, we actually are one of the biggest universities, or we are the biggest university here in South Australia in terms of student numbers. And proportionate to that, we actually do have staff. And out of the 37,500 students studying with us, about 20% are actually international students coming from more than 80 countries. We currently teach over 200 degrees over 7 academic areas. And today we will be touching on 2 of those academic areas. Adrian will actually be touching on those areas. Now, to quickly move on to our student satisfaction rankings and our student support rankings, we're actually #1 in South Australia for student satisfaction and for student support. So this means our students are really happy with what they're getting here at UniSA, and we do try our best to support them when they do have any questions. I'm not going to be talking about extra services today like accommodation or anything like that, but if you do need more information, please feel free to leave a question on the chat, and we'll be more than happy to answer them after the session. Now, Adrian will be talking about a few programs today across our creative industries and education and teaching academic units. And almost all of these programs, actually all of these programs, are eligible for scholarships. So we do have 2 main scholarships available here at UniSA. One of them, we call it the IMS, or the International Merit Scholarship. This is a 15% scholarship for the full duration of your course. Now, if you're a student applying for a bachelor's program at UniSA, and if you're coming from Sri Lanka or from the Maldives, I know you'll be taking your A-levels, so you will need a 9 in your A-levels. That's roughly about 3 C passes in your A-levels. And if you're coming into a master's program at UniSA, we will be looking at least 60% when it comes to your undergraduate qualification in your home country. This could also mean a 2nd class upper, or it could also mean a 3.3 GPA out of a 4 scale and above. Now, do remember, in order to maintain the scholarship, you do need to maintain a GPA, which is 4.5 out of a 7. The next scholarship that we do have is the scholarship that we call the VC scholarship, but actually the long version is the Vice Chancellor's International Excellence Scholarship. Now, this is a 50% scholarship for the full duration of your course. And if you are coming into a bachelor's degree at UniSA, you will need to have at least 16 in your best 3 subjects in your A-levels. And if you're coming into a master's in your undergraduate qualification, you'll need to have above 80. Now, this scholarship is actually a very competitive scholarship. So this is only available for limited students. We only have 20 available annually. So it's very competitive. And as you can see, the requirements to be eligible are high. So the previous scholarship, you will be automatically granted. You do not need to submit a special application. However, for the VC scholarship, you need to submit a separate application to be considered. And if you are considered and sent an offer letter with this scholarship, you will need to accept as soon as possible, because it's a first come first serve basis scholarship. So if you don't accept, it might be cancelled and given to the next available student within a week. So that's about the scholarship information. If you do need any more information about that, please feel free to leave your questions in the chat. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and hand over to Adrian to actually talk about the academic units.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Just a thumbs up if you can see the presentation okay, full screen. Beautiful.
Yes,
thanks, Rama, and greetings from Adelaide. It's a sunny Adelaide at the moment, so definitely not like our winter weather. It's 23 and sunny here today, so yeah, lovely. So hi to everyone from Sri Lanka and the Maldives and wherever you are. So I'm going to get started. So first of all, obviously Rama touched on the job outlook, and at the moment we're very proud of our ranking #1 in all of Australia in terms of job outcomes or employment outcomes. So this just sort of touches on teaching and education careers. This is just a few of them that I've looked into. So the Australian government has a page that's called Labour Market Insights, and within this page it has indicated that there is going to be very strong growth in terms of job outcomes to 2026 for early childhood pre-primary teachers. And then you can see the average weekly salary. And then secondary teachers, they've also indicated very strong growth, 1,900 a week. And then education advisors, again, very strong growth, 2,000 a week, and other education managers, almost 2,500 a week. So just from that, I mean, the job outcomes are looking very, very strong, and that's what we want. Obviously, when we're spending all this money on study, we want to make sure that we get a job afterwards. So yeah, I just want to share that. I'm going to share that with Creative as well. All right, so just a bit of an overview of our program. So we are a very large education provider. So we're actually the largest teacher training organisation in all of South Australia. So that really benefits our students because pretty much all of the schools in South Australia know us very well. And that helps us out with placements and those type of things. So we offer the full gamut of programs, as you can see, at undergraduate. So we've got our early childhood, primary and secondary. These are all honours qualifications at undergraduate. They're 4-year honours qualifications. A lot of universities around Australia, they've all got 4-year undergraduate teaching programs, but a lot of them don't offer the honours. So the honours will put you in advance of those students without an honours qualification. So that's a really important point. So choose one with an honours qualification. And then you've got your Master of Teaching, Early Childhood, Primary and Secondary. These ones are all 2-year programs. And then we've also got our non-teachers registration board program, so Master of Education. So the Master of Education, that's the dotted line down to the bottom there, that's the only program that you cannot register with your teachers registration board. So the other programs, you become a professional teacher and you register with the Teachers Registration Board, and you will be a teacher in most countries around the world. The Master of Education is a different job outcome, and we'll touch on that shortly. Placements and internships, as I'm sure you are all aware, are really, really important. So I can't harp on how important these are. So we organise all of these placements for you. You don't need to worry about organising any of them. We have connections with pretty much most of the schools around South Australia, and we offer more placement hours and more placement days than most other universities. Why is that important? Essentially, really, it's getting your confidence up, but it's also getting you the foot in the door for jobs while you're studying with us. So some of our students are even employed from their final placement if they've done a great job. So as you can see, the program on the left-hand side there, so we've got our bachelor program, early childhood, primary and secondary. They will have 4 placements, all arranged by us. and you can see the total number of days there as well. So the great thing is these placements are actually a part of the program itself. So it's not something separate that you have to do. It's not. They're actually classed as subjects within the course structure. So yeah, very, very important things. And then you've got the Master of Teaching Early Childhood 3 days, 3 placements and 80 days. And the Master of Teaching Primary and Secondary both have 2 placements that we organise and 60 days. Now, the Master of Education, that has an industry-based project, so an industry project in collaboration with one of our industry partners. All right, so yeah, those placements. Another thing is when we're organising those placements, we're going to try and organise them to be fairly convenient with you for you. So if you don't have, your own car, we'll organise it. Or even if you do have your own car, we try and organise the placements fairly close to your home where we can. Just a bit of an overview of education. So established way back in 1876 when we were an education college. So very, very established. We have Australia's only Samsung Smart School, and we're top 10 nationally. So rankings are very, very high. Landtite support. So Landtite is actually a requirement from the Australian government. It's literacy and numeracy testing for initial teacher education. And this is required Australia-wide for all of the teaching students. So we actually provide a lot of learning support for Landtite. So we provide free tutors, free practice tests, and all of that type of thing that ensure that our success rate for Landtite is really elevated compared to a lot of the other universities. So that's a really key point. Placement action plans, that's a really key thing. So we need you to pass your placements. We implement a safety net while you're doing your placements because we want to see you succeed. So when we set you up on placement, we have a supervising teacher go out there as well, but you've also got a supervising teacher at the schools who will be monitoring you, etc. So if we can see an area where you're struggling, we will put an action plan in place, and that will be a safety net to stop you failing that placement before that actually happens. As I mentioned, honours degrees, really, really highly regarded compared to just the normal level 4-year degrees. Samsung Smart School, this is the only one in all of Australia and in the whole country. It's the most technologically advanced school in the country. It's utilising the latest Samsung technology, from wearable technology to little robots to things like bounceable basketballs with computers in it that monitor the bounce rate, control rate, etc. There's our science students are using VR headsets to learn about things like geography, etc. But it's also a great self-learning tool. So what happens is schools from all around South Australia book a time in the Samsung Smart School, and our students can assist with facilitating these sessions. And it's so they're all recorded, so the students can self-analyse their teaching abilities. Very hands-on learning, as UniSA is known for. So we've got maker spaces that we call them for arts and crafts and science, physical education. So very, very practically focused. These are the other requirements that you're going to need to undertake before you, during your degree. So you apply, you submit your teacher's capability statement, and then you have a few other bits and pieces that you have to do throughout: first aid training, child safe training, and I mentioned Landtite as well. So entry requirements. So for the Bachelor of Early Childhood and Primary and Secondary, they have FEB intakes. You can see the IELTS requirements there. You can see all of the intakes, all of the GPA requirements for all of the programs, and all of the IELTS English requirements as well. You can see down the bottom there, the Master of Education has slightly less IELTS or slightly lower IELTS requirements. So prerequisites and background areas. So to get into early childhood or primary and bachelor, no prerequisites at all. You can come from any background area. For bachelor secondary area, if you're wanting to be a teacher in maths, chemistry or physics, you will need to have those prerequisite subject areas when you're applying. For the Masters, for early childhood and primary, you need 4 subjects or 4 courses that we call that align to the Australian teaching curriculum. And you can see the curriculum learning areas on the side there. and then you need another 4 courses across any of these areas. So you might have 4 courses in maths, and then you might have 1 course in science, 1 course in English, 1 course in arts, etc. Secondary masters is a little bit more tricky, but not too bad. So you just need 1 major, which is 6 courses in 1 area of the Australian teaching curriculum, and then 4 courses preferably in another area. So the Master of Education, this is a new program, and we're super excited about this program. This has some great job outcomes. So really, this is designed for anyone who wants to work in education. So it's either designed for educators who are teachers who want to upskill and become principals or education managers, etc., or it's designed for anyone from any background area who's wanting to get a career in education, whether it's in education government departments, in curriculum development, you know, as an education leader. So it really does open up a lot of career options. So you can see the different streams. So you actually get to choose 2 different streams within your degree. So you could choose, if you want to get into those management positions, you can choose education leadership. You could choose digital learning and assessment, or you could choose TESOL, or also inclusive education. So inclusive education used to be known sort of as special education. So it's kind of similar to that. All right, so that's a bit about the Master of Education. Yeah, this is the structure. So in pretty much all of UniSA's programs, we make you do 4 subjects each semester, 8 subjects a year, and that's basically the structure that we do. So within the Master of Education, in your final semester of your final year, you'll do a project in education, and this is worth 2 subjects. And it's going to give you some great industry contacts, some networks, and some practical experience before you hit the before you get a job, essentially. All right, so that's education. We'll open it up for questions afterwards as well, but I'm going to go through some of our UniSA creative programs now. So this is a very, very dynamic and diverse academic unit, from architecture through to communications, design, urban planning, illustration, animation, you name it. So we'll go through some of these disciplines. Again, job outcomes are looking wonderful. So the creative industries sector is growing 40% faster than the economy. So it's one of the fastest growing employment areas in Australia. So that's good news for you guys who are considering careers in the creative industry sector. So these are just some of the career outcomes for architecture. Future growth, 16.8%. Weekly earnings there, you can see interior architecture and design. Again, future growth to 2026 is 19%. So really strong. Weekly earnings, urban planning, again, future growth, 18%. 2,000 weekly earnings. Graphic design, over 20% future growth with weekly earnings of 1,500. Right, and yeah, we've got some more disciplines. So even visual arts, again, strong future growth, strong weekly earnings. Communication PR, future growth about 4%, weekly earnings 1,700. Even journalism, illustration, animation. Actually, illustration animation is looking really, really positive. We've got a big industry here in Adelaide, and our students are doing phenomenally well in that area as well. So just a bit of history of UniSA Creative. Again, similar to education, we've got a very old and prestigious art and design school dating back to 1856. So a lot of history to draw on. We're Australia's oldest architecture program. We actually run the world's first ever Bachelor of Design program as well. So yeah, a lot of history to draw across. Australia's only architecture museum, wonderful facilities that our students have 24/7 access to. And of course, typical UniSA, a lot of access to a lot of practical sides of things as well. So #1 in Australia for teaching quality in architecture as well, and top 10 for work-ready graduates in creative arts as well. So these are our programs. This is a bit of a snapshot of the programs of the academic unit. So you've got design there for undergraduate. They're 3-year programs. We've got the Bachelor of Design, Product Design, Communication Design, and Illustration Animation, all 3 years. And the undergraduate, all of our undergraduate programs do not need portfolios. So that's a really good news for you guys. No portfolios required for the undergraduates. The only thing that we need portfolios for are the Master of Design and programs and the Master of Architecture. All of the others do not require portfolios. So yeah, that's a snapshot of what we offer across all of those areas, but we'll drill down and have a look at them in a little bit more detail. Again, that focus on practical learning is so important. So we've got over 300 creative industry partners, just to name a few. I've just named a couple there. So you can see Epic Games, biggest game company in the world that we're partnered with, some of the biggest architecture firms, some of the biggest TV networks, some of the biggest animation firms, Hughes PR, which is the biggest PR company here in South Australia. So these are some phenomenal companies, and this is just a snapshot of a few of the companies that our students are collaborating with and doing industry internships at. So yeah, with our industry internships, essentially how it usually works is within the structure of your program, you'll have things called elective subjects, and you can use one of these electives to do an internship that we'll assist with arranging. We've got wonderful world-class facilities. This is just a snapshot of one of our design buildings. So this is 24/7 access to these spaces. This is an explanatory building, so it's been designed in such a way that our architecture and interior architecture students are learning from the internal structures like service pipes and some of the inner workings of the building. So it's a real-life learning facility. Very hands-on learning. So as I said, 24/7 access to the studio spaces using your UniSA swipe card to access these spaces after hours. And our students do sometimes work on their projects 24/7. You'll find them there in all hours of the morning working on their projects, typical students. And we've got some of the most comprehensive workshops as well out of any university in Australia. So this is very important. So essentially in the studio spaces, on one hand, the students come up with their design ideas and then they bring them down to the studio, to the workshop spaces, and they can't bring them into fruition, whether they're models or prototypes, and sometimes even production items as well. Match Studio, this is just yet another fantastic practical learning opportunity for our students. So essentially what happens is real clients and real companies approach the University of South Australia Match Studio, and they have a bunch of different projects that our students can pick and choose from. So again, students can use electives to choose a Match Studio subject and they can work on a real project. Some of the previous projects have been things like our students helping with developing apps or developing swipe cards, developing brochures. This is another Match Studio project. This was actually our interior architecture students who designed the student lounge on campus, and this was a Match Studio subject. So wonderful practical learning opportunities for our students, and it adds to their portfolio when they graduate as well. All right, yet another amazing practical opportunity for the students. This one is for our architecture, interior architecture and industrial design students. It's called Design and Construct. And it's one of the world's largest and longest student design and construct projects anywhere. So this is one of our workshop spaces for design and construct, and you can see students in there working on a building that they essentially flat pack, put on the back of a truck, and it's almost like a massive IKEA project. They take it out to remote locations and they construct them on site. So we've got projects that are going on at the moment. We've had projects that have going on for years in Fiji, Vanuatu, in the Pacific Islands, all throughout Australia. So wonderful practical learning opportunities. Again, students use electives to do this. This is just one of our buildings from Design and Construct. This was in the Northern Territory in the Aboriginal lands. So this was ranger accommodation. So this is our architecture program. It's a 3+2. I know in Sri Lanka and the Maldives, you have a 5-year undergraduate. We do a 3+2. We can do a package. So we can do a 3+2 package for you as well. But you can't technically be an architect until you complete the Master of Architecture. Some of the highlights from our Master of Architecture, and I know the program director very well. I've travelled with him extensively, and he assures me, so he's been the program director for 10 years, and he tells me always that he's had close to full employment for his Master of Architecture students over those last 10 years. So that is phenomenal outcomes. So extremely high employment outcomes for our architecture students. We've got the benefit of really being within a creative discipline area rather than engineering. So our students are collaborating on projects with interior architect students and industrial designers, etc. So they're getting that benefit as well. Again, I mentioned the internships. We're partnered with most of the architectural practice firms. So yeah, a lot of practical input to the program. Again, the career outcomes looking fantastic as well. Master of Urban and Regional Planning. This is a wonderful program, and you can see on the right-hand side there, it says no related discipline required. So your students can come from any background area. This one is in demand as well. The job opportunities in Australia at the moment are wonderful in urban and regional planning. It's on the it's one of the in-demand areas. So yeah, come from any background area and go into a whole new career in urban and regional planning. Again, no portfolio required either. So key features, we are actually Australia's longest provider of urban planning with over 70 years of experience teaching. So yeah, great history to draw on. We're partnered with most of the councils around Adelaide. So our students actually undertake industry projects with these councils. And yeah, one of the big worldwide issues at the moment is transport planning. I mean, cities are just growing so exponentially fast that transport planning is a huge growth area. And so we actually have a lot of input into the program around transport planning as well, because this is a worldwide theme that's so popular. And yeah, this program is professionally accredited by the Planning Institute of Australia. Again, you'll be happy, as I mentioned, great job outcomes there as well. So typical jobs that students go into, working with councils, working with government, you know, signing off on building projects, signing off on developments of new towns and suburbs, you know, even signing off on the social amenities of new suburbs, you know, where to put walking paths, where to put cycling areas, where to put recreational facilities. So it really is a fantastically interesting area to get into as well. Bachelor of Film and Television, this is, I don't think anyone in Australia can compete with us in this area. And the reason why is we're partnered with some wonderful companies. Excuse me. One of the companies is Rising Sun Pictures and the other one is We Made a Thing Studios. So students can get to choose either the film and television pathway or the visual effects pathway. If they choose the visual effects pathway, they're doing up to 40% of their entire degree with Rising Sun Pictures. And this is a company that's worked on over 120 Hollywood films right here in Adelaide, a big company. Over 90 of our graduates have gained employment at Rising Sun Pictures, working on some of the biggest blockbusters that are known. So Tomb Raider, Thor, Great Gatsby. Our students worked on the latest Top Gun movie. Yeah, so these are the biggest movies going around our students get to work on when they graduate. And yeah, again, 40% of their degree is done on site with the professionals at Rising Sun Pictures. If you're wanting to do the film and television production pathway, you're partnered with We Made a Thing Studio. Kind of a strange name, but they're another really impressive studio here in Adelaide, and you can do around about 30% of your whole degree with We Made a Thing Studios. You can see our students there looking very proud of themselves. They attended their own film premiere on the red carpet. Yeah, some of the recent movies our graduates have worked on, pretty much every feature film and television series shot in South Australia. Some big blockbusters there as well. Mortal Kombat, Top Gun, Star Wars, The 800. So the outcomes are looking very positive as well. So future growth, you're looking at about 11% future growth, weekly earnings, 1,800 a week across film and television. As I said, with Rising Sun Pictures, one of our industry partners, we've had over 90 of our students gain employment at Rising Sun Pictures. And you can see the typical job outcomes for each of the distinct pathways from film and television and also visual effects. Master of Design, so these are 2-year programs. They all require a portfolio. and these are the specializations that we offer. So industrial design, so designing anything that we're using on a daily basis, whether it's designing an iPhone through to a laptop, through to a pair of sneakers, you name it. Contemporary art, communication design, design and construct, interior architecture, and sustainable design. Key features of the Master of Design, again, very practically focused. You spend a lot of your time in our world-class studio spaces, coming up with your own design projects that go onto your portfolio. And then when you graduate, you've got a world-class portfolio that you can show your employers. We also give you a mentor in your final year. If you're doing interior architecture, we'll organise that. Again, the option to do internships using electives, the option to do match studio projects, working with real clients using electives, etc. So wonderful opportunity. We also teach you a little bit of business impetus within the program as well, because some of our students do actually open up their design firms when they graduate from us as well. So we'll teach you some business skills as well, and things like how to respond to expressions of interest and those type of things also. And again, you're taught by world-class designers with extensive networks as well. So that's going to get you the benefit of jobs out afterwards as well. Design career outcomes, that's just a snapshot of some of the design areas. Again, looking very, very strong here in Adelaide and in Australia also more generally. The Bachelor of Design, we have 3 areas: product design, comm design, and illustration animation. Again, no portfolio required. These are 3-year programs, and we are going to teach you everything you need to know. You don't need even any background skills in drawing, in doing anything. We're going to teach you everything you need to know. Some of the key features. So Bachelor of Design, Illustration and Animation. We have had some good Sri Lankan students go through this program. And we've got Sri Lankan students now working in illustration and animation here in Adelaide. Typical careers, you're looking at illustrator, animator, gaming artists. And when you think of the industries that it touches, I mean, anything sort of web-based, it can be done by an animator. All of these big animated films, they start with an illustration and then go through to the animated form. So any big Disney film all starts with a drawing and goes through to the animation. So we're the only one in Australia to combine these 2 specializations. All right, Bachelor of Communication and Media, another really popular one. This will give you job outcomes across a range of different areas, things like social media manager, that's a big growth area. PR coordinator, public relations coordinator, communications officer. When you think about it, every industry has a communications professional to communicate the message that organization wants to portray to the world across their digital and print and 3-dimensional materials. So yeah, a lot of great job outcomes from that as well. So Master of Communication as well. This is the 2-year Master of Communication. It's the only one in South Australia. You get to do a final year industry-based project, which is 320 hours with one of our industry partners. And again, it's leading to those really exciting job outcomes across comms and marketing and digital and social media manager, etc. So I think that's pretty much it. And then communication careers, again, really looking strong. So advertising and marketing professionals, very strong growth, 1,700 a week, and public relations professionals, 1,800 a week, and strong growth as well. And typical job outcomes, you can see some of them there. So real diverse areas that you can go into in terms of employment. So one of the fastest growing areas of employment. So that is it from me. So I hope that was helpful, but certainly happy to take any questions that you guys have.
Thank you so much, Adrian. We do have a question in the chat. I did respond to the student saying Adrian will respond at the end.
Sure.
So she wanted to know, let me just read out. So she said, may I know more details about the placements provided by UniSA Masters in Education TESOL? I think we might need to just explain a little bit about the changes and also what options she's got.
Yes. All right. So we have our Master of Education TESOL. The final intake is going to be this semester, and then that program will be taught out. From next year, we will have a new Master of Education, which I went through, and it's got the two different streams. So it doesn't technically have a internship or a placement, that particular program, but we will organise an industry-based project in collaboration with an industry partner. So yeah, you might be working on a real-life education issue with one of our partners. But yeah, not an internship for that particular program. All of the other education and teaching programs, they have guaranteed internships, placements that we organise for you.
Yeah, so Owini, if you are planning to apply for the July intake, another thing I have to mention is we do have application cutoff dates for students coming from Sri Lanka and from the Maldives. So the last day to submit your application will be the 16th of June. That's this month, the 16th, Friday, and that will be the last day to submit your application for the July intake. And the last day to accept any offers that you already hold will be the 7th of July. Those are the application cutoff days that we do have for the July intake. If you are planning to come in into our Feb intake, the new program that Adrian mentioned will be applicable for you. And if you want to study TESOL, that is still an area that you can study in. However, it will not be a specialization like we do have in the current program. I can see that we do have another question. Someone's asking for a quick explanation about the Masters of Early Childhood Education, because they missed that part.
Fantastic. All right. So the Master of Early Childhood Education, that's a 2-year program. It has 3 guaranteed placements that we will organise for you with local schools here in Adelaide. And those placements total 80 days. So you do the 2-year Master of Teaching Early Childhood. You will then be eligible to register with the South Australian Teachers Registration Board, and you'll be able to teach from birth to 8 years of age for early childhood.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Do we have any more questions, Delaney? Anything come directly through to you?
Adrian, when it comes to internships, are these paid internships or?
Good question. No, they're not paid internships. No, they're definitely not paid internships. Students are certainly allowed to work while they're studying, but these internships are actually part of the structure of the program. So it's going to, like, they're essentially like a subject. So yeah, they're definitely not paid. But yeah, students can certainly organise a work, like a part-time job. That's a different thing, and they'll get paid for that. But yeah, not the internships. Yeah. Most universities around Australia don't have paid internships.
So when it comes to programs offered only in February for teaching, are they being offered on quota basis? Or how does the admission process happens? Like, is it open? Yeah. Like, is there a specific number that you all open for international students?
We haven't hit that number yet. There is a quota for the Master of Teaching Early Childhood, but it's quite a large quota. So we're not worried about really going over that quota. Yeah, we get a lot of international students into it. We do have a quota, but yeah, we're not worried about going over that quota at this stage.
Any more questions? So I think that's all, Rahama. Thank you so much, Adrian. That was very informative. And thank you, Rahama and Adrian, for your time. Thank you, everyone, for joining. As Rahama said, applications are still open for July 2023 intake. You all can contact EdLocate on 077 1770 361 for details with regard to programs and application process for upcoming intakes. And if you are in Maldives, you can contact us on 7620-563. Okay, thank you, everyone, and have a nice day.
Thank you. Bye for now.
Thank you so much. Bye. See you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.